Hi, this video is for those of you who have not used Python before and need to get a start on how to work this out. So we're going to do a couple of program examples here, and let me get Python started. So the first thing you need to do once you get Python started up here is open up a blank file so that you can create your program in there. If we just typed it in here, it doesn't save anything. So I'm going to go to File and then New File. And I always like to resize my windows so they fit on the screen and see them better that way. So that's where the output's going to be when we get this typed in here. So let's look at the first one I've got here that we're going to work on. I'm going to write a program that will ask the user to enter the amount of a purchase. The program should then compute the state and county sales tax. Assume the state sales tax is 5% and the county sales tax is 2.5%. The program should display the amount of the purchase, the state sales tax, the county sales tax, the total sales tax, and the total of the sale, which is the sum of the amount of purchase plus the total sales tax. So we're going to go ahead and get this started here. That's the next one. So type in some stuff here. So what we need to do is kind of pull out the information from this that we're going to need to use. Okay, we're going to have to enter the amount of purchase. So we're going to use an input statement to do that, to get that information from the user. Okay, we've got these two values for the sales tax. That's going to be equal to this here. There we go. 0.05, 5%. The county, oh, I'm sorry, this is the state sales tax. Let me put that in here. Is going to be equal to 0.025. Okay. And then once we do that, then we need to calculate those. So our county, and what I'm going to do is put in here tax rate, because that's what this actually is the rate, not the actual tax. So we need to calculate out, the program should display the amount of the purchase, the state sales tax, the county sales tax, and the total. So our state sales tax, I'm going to take that off of there, is going to be equal to our purchase times our state sales tax rate. And our county sales tax is going to be equal to our purchase times our county sales tax rate. We also need the total sales tax, and that's going to be equal to our state sales tax plus our county sales tax. And then we need to display all those. So I'm not going to put those in here on here. We'll just do that in the program. Okay. I'm sorry. We need one more. We need the total sale, sale. That's going to be equal to our purchase plus our total sales tax. Okay. So move this out of the way here, and we'll start it on writing the code for this. So first two things we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of constants in here. In Python, they don't really have constants like you do in other languages. You can go in there and change them and stuff, but if you do it, write it in a way to where the person looking at the code knows that that's what they are, then they can stay with the assumption that they're not going to change while the program's running. So we're going to do that by using capital letters on these. And I'm going to abbreviate these a little bit. I'm going to do state tax rate. That's going to be equal to our 0.05, and then our county tax rate is going to be equal to our 0.025. So now what we need to do is we need to get the purchase price from the user. So I'm just going to do purchase That's going to be equal to, and we're going to do these as with floats. So what this will do, it'll do the inside first. So the input then is going to be, it'll print up on the screen, enter the purchase price, colon, space. They would enter the amount. That would then be input into here, and then the float would convert that string that came in into a float value that would then be stored into purchase. Now we need to go ahead and calculate out the count of the state sales tax. And notice over here the way I do this, I do the constants all uppercase, separating them out, the different words out with an underline. I'm not a big fan of using underlines, so I do use what's called camel case for my regular variables, where the first word is a lowercase and every word after that starts with an uppercase with no spaces, no underlines or anything. So state tax is going to be equal to our purchase times state tax rate. And then our county tax is going to be equal to our purchase times our county tax rate. So we need to calculate out our total. Whoops. Total tax is going to be equal to our state tax plus our county tax, and then our sales total is going to be equal to our total tax plus purchase. Okay. So now all we need to do is display all this. So I'm going to start off with a print statement. I'm going to do an F for format to format this. I'm going to do purchase amount, $, and then in curly braces here, I'm going to put in purchase, colon, dot, 2F for the format on that, and the curly brace, parentheses. Whoops, sorry. There we got, and the curly brace, and the quote, parentheses. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with all the rest of them. Print F, quote mark, state tax, $, curly brace, whoops, $, curly brace, state tax, colon, dot, 2F, and the curly brace, and the quote, and the parentheses. Then the county, so F, quote, county tax, $, curly brace, county tax, colon, dot, 2F, and curly brace, and quote, and parentheses, print F, colon, total tax, total tax, colon, dot, 2F, curly brace, quote, parentheses. I hit the wrong keys on all these. Parentheses, F, quote, total sales, $, curly brace, sales total, colon, dot, 2F, and curly brace, and quote, and parentheses. Okay, so that's the whole program. So now what we need to do is save this someplace. So I'm going to do a file, save as, and then navigate to where I want to put this. This was going to default into the Python folder here, which is not where I want to put this. So I'm going to put this out on my external hard drive in my course here that I'm doing for this. And I'm going to create a folder on here so I can put this in here. Example videos, open that up, and then I'm going to give it a name here, and this is going to be this work here, PURCHASE, purchase tax is what I'm going to call it, .py, okay? Don't forget the .py on there. The newer versions of Python, I think, automatically do that, but I always do it just to make sure I get the right extension, because see, there's different extensions down here for different ways that it's being saved or whatever. Okay, now I want to run this, so I'm going to go up here to click on Run. Enter the purchase price, so I'm going to do, say, 12.99. So the purchase price was or purchase amount was $12.99. The state tax was 65 cents. County tax was 32 cents. Total tax was 97 cents. So the total sales was $13.96. Okay. So hopefully this helps you out on getting started with this. We're going to go ahead and do another one right now so that you can have two of these to look at. This one's a little bit more complicated. Pull this over here so you can see this. A vineyard owner is planting several new rows of grapevines and needs to know how many grapevines to plant, misspelled word there, in each row. She has determined that after measuring the length of a future row, she can use the following formula to calculate the number of vines that will fit in the row, along with the trellis end post assemblies that will need to be constructed at each end of the row. So the formula is V equals R minus 2 times E divided by S. So V is the number of grapevines that will fit in a new row. That's what we're wanting to calculate. R is the length of the row in feet. E is the amount of space in feet used by an end, which is the post assembly. And S is the space between vines in feet. So we're going to write a program that makes the calculation for the vineyard owner. The program should ask the user to input the following: the length of the row in feet, the amount of space used by the end post assembly in feet, and the amount of space between the vines in feet. Okay, so the only thing that we really need to do, we know what the input is and we know the output's going to be the number of grapevines that will fit in the row. So I'm not going to do all that here. What I'm going to do is just come up with the formula that we'd have to do to type in. Okay, so I'm going to do num vines is going to be equal to, and see if I can get this to fit on here. I might have to take it down a little bit. There we go. So it's going to be equal to row length, I'm going to put parentheses in here in a minute, minus 2 times E, which is the amount of space in feet for the end post. I'm just going to do end post. And that's going to be divided by, I'm just going to do space, the space between. Now what we need though is this all needs to be divided by here, so it won't do that automatically. What this would do right now is divide end post by space, multiply that times 2, and then subtract that from row length. So we're going to do a parentheses around here. And when we do this, okay, the 2 times the end post will be done first because multiplication is done first. Then it will take that and subtract it from the row length, and then it will take that and divide it by space. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on this one. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to my other program. Slide this over here so I can get the end of it when I get done here. And if I open up a new one from the same location where one is already, it will default to that location when I go to do the save. So I'm going to do a new file, and I'm going to close this one off because I don't need it anymore. Okay, so we don't have any constants in this one, okay, because they're all everything's going to be input. The row length, the end post, and the space are all entered. The only thing that could be a constant would be the number of end posts that we're needing, but we're just going to use that as a 2 on here. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with this here. So um, we need to input the length of the row. So we're going to do what I use on that one. Row length is going to be equal to, and I'm going to do all this stuff in well, we're going to do it in floats because what we're going to enter is a space for the end post is 1.5 feet. So that way, if we keep it all floats, then everything stays the same. So row length is going to be a float input okay. Then we're going to need to know the amount of space used by an end post assembly. So the variable I used that for that was end post. Going to be equal to a float input to enter the amount of space for the end post, and then we need to have the space between the vines. So that I call that space. Enter the amount of space between vines. Now, if we wanted to really make this user friendly, we could put a print statement above all these that says print all input values must be in feet so that they know that. But we're just going to go ahead and do it this way here. So, okay. So we got those there. So now we need to do the calculation, which is going to be our num vines. That's going to be equal to, in parentheses, row length minus 2 times end post, and that's all divided by space. Okay? That's the only calculation we need there. Let's go ahead and print out all this stuff. So we have that so you can get some practice with printing also. So we're going to print. Again, I'm going to use the F on here for the format. Get the spell right. And on this one here, I'm just going to do a colon and then a space, then the curly brace. And again, I'm going to do the row length colon dot 2f and curly brace. And then at the end of this, I'm going to do a space, quote, feet. Whoops. There. Then end the quote mark and the parentheses. Okay. So it'll do row length, and then we'll do, say, like 50 feet. Okay. Do the next one. And that's going to be our end post. End post size. So we know how much that is. Then we're going to do space between. And then we'll say print out the number of vines. Oh, this one up here should have been, oh, that's right. Yeah, okay, never mind. We got that right. So this would be num vines. Okay, there we go. We got the whole program done there. So let's go ahead and get this one saved. And here. I'm just going to call it grapevines.py and save that. And then we'll run this. Oh, got an error here. So just to show you, that's a syntax error there, so I can delete off that colon that I had there. Whoops. There, that must have hit that by accident when I put that in there. So then when I run it again, it'll come up and ask me, do I want to save this? And I'm going to say yes or okay. Okay, so then we're going to do the length of the row is going to be 50. The space for the end post is going to be 1.5. And then the amount of space between vines is going to be 4. And we come up with row length is 50, end post size is 1.5 feet. The space between vines is 4 feet. The number of vines per row is going to be 11.75. But we can't do a 0.75 vine in there. It has to be a full vine. So we need to cut that down to 11 on there. So in order to do that, what we'll have to do is convert that into an integer. So once we have this calculated here, we can do then numVines equals int numVines, which will convert it into an integer and cut off the added on there. And so when I do that, I've got to change this in here, and I'm just going to take out this format in here, okay? Because now it's an integer. So let's run it and see what happens this time when we do this. So we're going to enter the length of the row. It's going to be 50 again. Space for the ends post is going to be 1.5. The amount of space between vines is going to be 4. And now we get it to where it comes out right is the number of vines per row is 11 feet. Okay. Hopefully this helps you out on getting started with Python. As you go through the class and get into the other stuff, we'll be doing more example programs in here so you can see how all that works. Okay. So thanks for watching. Bye.